Our first panel discussion is on the topic OTT versus cinema. The discussion will be led by Karan Torani, Vice President, Research Analyst, Media and Consumer Discretionary at Elara Capital. He will be joined by speakers Amit Sharma, Managing Director, Entertainment, Mirage Group, Shailesh Kapoor, Founder and CEO, Ormax Media, Sharik Patel, CEO, SL Vision Productions. Next up, we have a fireside chat on the topic What Young India Wants, a peep into the minds of Gen Z and youth in a post COVID world. We will be joined by speakers Pooja Johari, CEO, The Glitch, who will join Naveen Shenoy, Head of Marketing, Youth, Music, English Entertainment, Viacom 18 in conversation. Our next topic of discussion will be the fireside chat emergence of purposeful content. We will be joined by speakers Rohit Ori, Chairman and CEO, FCB India, in conversation with Tarun Katiyal, CEO, Ashwini Yardi, producer CEO Z5 India, and Ashwini Yardi, producer of films like Masaba Masaba, Oh My God, Fugly, and Sing is Bling. Our next session will be a panel discussion on the topic Creative Freedom, OTT Crafting Bolder Narratives. The discussion will be led by Munish Puri, founder and CEO, Rainbox Studios, a division of Rainshine Entertainment. He will be joined by speakers Abhimanyu Singh, producer and founder, Contillo Pictures, Binda Day, head of marketing, Red Chilies Entertainment, Gunjan Arya, CEO, Only Much Louder, Isaac M. John, Director, Digital Business and Partnerships, Discovery India, Pooja Rajadhaksha, Content Head, Eros Now, Shaurya Mohanty, Chief Operating Officer, Epic On. Our next session is a fireside chat on the topic Global Outlook, Local Strategy. We will be joined by speakers Raman Kalra, Entertainment, Media and Sports Advisory Leader at PwC India, in conversation with Rohit Jain, Managing Director, South Asia, Lionsgate. The next session is a panel discussion on emerging adtech powering OTT platforms. The discussion will be led by Sunny Nagpal, Regional Managing Director, HTT Pool, APAC. He will be joined by speakers Vikram Tanna, COO, Mazalo, Siddhartha Roy, COO, Hangama Digital, Kunik Patel, Industry Head, Tech, Telco, OEM and QSR at InMobi, Ravi Sharma, Revenue Head, Ghana, Vineet Mehta, Head of Sales, Indian Subcontinent, Brightco, Rajneel Kumar, Business Head, Expansion Projects, and Head of Products, Z5 India. Our next session is the last fireside of the day. The topic will be Role of Women in Storytelling. We will be joined by speakers Alankrita Shrivastava, director and screenwriter of films like Lipstick Under My Burqa and Dolly Kitty or Wo Chamakte Sitare, in conversation with Shrishti Bhel Arya, director, International Originals, Netflix India. The next session is also about content. The topic is regional content driving the next phase of OTT growth. And while there's a question mark, I assure you attendees, there is no doubt in our minds that it will. The discussion will be led by Ashish Fairwani, Media and Entertainment Leader, Ernst & Young, India. He will be joined by speakers Divya Dikshit, Senior Vice President and Head of Marketing, Alt Balaji. Jayakrishnan S., co-founder, Mainstream TV. Kranti Gada, COO, Shimaru Entertainment. Preetham Venki, President Digital, DDB Mudra Group. Vishnu Mohta, co-founder, Hoichoi. The next session will be a panel discussion on unlocking short format video synergies for entertainment and social platforms. The discussion will be led by Uday Sodhi, Senior Partner, Kurate Digital Consultancy. He will be joined by speakers Abhishek Joshi, Head of Marketing and Business Partnerships, MX Player; Devika Sharma, Director Sales, Glance and Reposo at InMobi; Manish Srivastava, Head of Marketing, Ghana; Sameer Vora, Chief Marketing Officer, Daily Hunt; Shivang Agarwal, CEO, Mitro TV; and Sumit Ghosh, co-founder and CEO, Chingari. Our final session for the day will bring you speakers who represent the core of the entertainment industry, the creators and the artists. They will join the discussion on TV is fictional, cinema is larger than life, and OTT is in the realism space. The discussion will be led by our moderator, Gunjan Utreja, who is an actor, talk show host, and comedian. He'll be joined by Abhigyan Jha, renowned Indian film screenwriter, producer, director, writer, and entrepreneur, who has worked in the Hindi film industry for over 2 decades. He will be joined by Anuja Sathe, a film and television actress who has worked extensively in Marathi cinema before making her Bollywood debut. Also, Asha Negi. She is a veteran television actress who is now working across several OTT platforms like Z5, Netflix, and Alt Balaji. Our next speaker is Sahil Ved, an Indian actor and voice actress, Indian actor and voice artist who has who has appeared in many films, including Humpty Sharma Ki Dulhania and Bank Chor. Tanuj Veervani is all the rage for his appearance in the Amazon Prime Video original series Inside Edge. He has more upcoming web series on platforms such as Z5 and Alt Balaji. I would now like to introduce the first panel discussion on OTT versus cinema. The pandemic has disrupted the clout and likes of some of the big players who have always enjoyed their pole position in the cinema space. As theatre owners and OTT platforms fight over the right to exhibit cinema for the public, there couldn't be a better time, yet also a challenging time, to be a filmmaker and distributor in India. Saying that, I would like to welcome our panelists on screen. Moderator Karan Torani, Vice President, Research Analyst, Media and Consumer Discretionary at Elara Capital. Amit Sharma, Managing Director, Entertainment, Miraj Group. Shailesh Kapoor, Founder and CEO, Ormax Media. And Sharik Patel, CEO of SL Vision Productions. On to you.
Right. Thanks, Varun. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks for this opportunity for moderating this panel of cinema versus OTT. I think we couldn't have a better time for having this panel, given the announcement of government yesterday, Unlock 5.0, wherein the cinemas will open up across India. I would like to welcome all the panelists, to have a discussion on this. So broadly, just to first share some kind of perspective in terms of where we were during pre-COVID era. What is the situation on ground right now, globally and in India, and what's the kind of losses which box office had to face because of this entire pandemic, because of films moving to OTT. So pre-COVID era, I think had COVID not hit us today in terms of box office collections for Hindi genre, we would have surpassed all records. We were almost poised to reach a collection mark of almost over 4,000 odd crores for this year in terms of net box office for FY20. And I think we fell short because of the month of March, where the occupancies became low and the theaters were asked to shut down due to the pandemic spreading. So we are at almost 7 months today with no revenue from the movie industry, with cinemas being shut. But a lot of things have changed in the last 6 months in favor of exhibitors. One key thing is that a lot of the shooting has resumed on the ground. So a lot of the producers have resumed shooting of their films. A lot of large actors like Akshay Kumar, Amir Khan have moved abroad for shoots. A lot of the large studios have announced that they'll be starting shooting in the month of November, December, and other shoots have also begun. That's one very good thing which is there. The larger exhibition chains, the listed ones, PVR, Inox, they've successfully raised a lot of capital for the cash burn in the last 6 months, and even from here on going ahead, because occupancies will be predominantly very low in the initial phases. So that's one positive thing. A lot of mall developers, there's nothing written on this or officially, but a lot of mall developers are kind of okay to move to on a rev share basis, because definitely the mall footfall will not come in until cinemas open up. So there have been like multiple green shoots for the cinema industry in the last 6 months, and definitely things are going to improve further from here on as we stand. uh, Looking at the global perspective, I think we started on a very good positive note when Tenet opened up in some selective markets. Tenet did a collection of almost $54 million, and that was a big surprise during COVID times. And distributors and people, experts around the world globally were estimating that Tenet could reach almost 450 million dollars of collection after an opening in US and China and other markets. But apparently, I think that did not work, and that it actually worked against them. They have faltered down drastically. It's not picked up in the US. China too has been very dismal. I think Tenet, will not land more than $300 million in terms of collection. So that's been one of the negative hit or a negative surprise which is there in terms of global context and global scheme of things. Now, coming to India, the kind of burn or the kind of dent, the Indian exhibition chains have had basically is close to about 1,000 odd crores in my view. So if you look at things, almost about 20, 22 Hindi films have gone directly on OTT, and about 5 to 7 regional films have gone on OTT. And the total impact of net box office collection, if these films were to release in cinema, is close to about 1,100 crores. So there are various challenges even now as we go ahead in terms of how things will recover, how people will go into cinemas, the occupancy capping, how will that get revised? You have your vulnerable audience of 65 years plus, 55 years plus. You've got your kids who may not travel to cinemas in the initial 3 to 6 months given the fear factor. We are not expecting a vaccine for at least a year now. Then vaccine distribution is another challenge. So there are various challenges, roadblocks at every level in terms of how things are going to pan out. Will all the states open up as soon as probably October end or November or something of that sort? That's another challenge, because cinemas will open up in a phased manner. You may see some kind of a situation wherein there could be a change in terms between the producer and the exhibitor, because as a producer, if a film goes into cinemas today, they will not do the collections what they would do during pre-COVID times. So definitely you'll see producers also asking for some kind of compensatory measure and some kind of terms in terms of distributor share, in terms of OTT window becoming lower in terms of weeks, something of that sort could happen. So a lot of roadblocks are still there. A lot of risks are still there in terms of cinema. Single scenes, you don't know what the future holds, because they are definitely on the verge of shutting down, and that single scene shutdown will probably intensify from here on. So let me welcome our fellow panelists, who are experts from various parts of the industry. So I've got Mr. Sharik Patel, who's from Z Studios, the key production house, one of the large production house studios today for making Hindi and Asian film content. So let me just begin with him first, to share his views in terms of this entire direct OTT release of what has been happening in the last 3 to 6 months. Hi, Sharik. Welcome to this conversation.
Hi, thanks, Karan, and hi, Amit, and hi, Shailesh. Long time. How are you doing?
Hi, hi. Yeah, long time.
Yeah, hi Amit as well from Miraj. Hi Shailesh, welcome you all. So Sharik, I would just like to begin with you first. Films have moved to OTT. Pre-COVID, you saw only the small films probably going to OTT, like Last Story, something like that, so which are very small in terms of size. But now we've seen medium budget films. We've also seen large films moving to OTT directly right now. So as a production house, I mean, what exactly is your view on that? I mean, is it sustainable or is it only a COVID trend? If you can just share some kind of initial insights on that, please.
So I mean, Lust Stories and earlier whatever went on to OTT was predominantly made for OTT. It was commissioned for OTT. Very rarely was it, or if a film, whatever, the producers weren't happy with it or they didn't think that there was theatrical potential, but they were far and few between. You could, it wasn't a trend. I think just to go back, when the pandemic hit and work came to a grinding halt and cinemas were asked to shut down on 15th of March, 16th of March, whatever it was, and production also stopped. We all thought it was a 18 day, 21 days. This will get sorted out. So everyone was sitting pretty and not really. Everyone took it as a holiday and saying, okay, let's see how it goes. As this started, as we realized that this is going to continue for even longer, I think all of us who had films which were already shot and where post was left, and depending on how much of post work was required, by April, May, there was clarity that this is not going anywhere in a hurry. So everyone started figuring out what is the opportunity or what is the exit, what is the monetization of this, because there's a certain carrying cost, there's a certain as listed companies you've got to have you need to clock some sort of revenues each quarter, despite everyone knowing what is happening. There's the pressures are still there. So the opportunities and everyone is consuming a lot of content, right? So you had the OTT players make very aggressive moves come end March or early April. And when the conversations first started, and we of course did sell Gunjan to Netflix, the numbers we threw were a little कि अरे इतना मिल जाता है तो we'll consider it, right? And all of us everyone is just sussing out, not really knowing what the price point would get determined. Surprising to our surprise, we got the price that we were looking at, and and once that got negotiated and kind of locked, we just thought it just made sense to actually lock that in, not just because of the revenue part of it. I think it's very important, and I think all of us have to be mindful of the fact that now with 6 months of literally no production or very limited production, just about starting off of the last 30 odd days, with this inventory not getting sold and the money not coming back from the OTT, a lot of the producers would face cash flow issues in terms of doing next, so that turnaround or the amount of money that is required to bankroll the next project would get stuck. So I think OTTs came in at at an opportune time, and of course they have benefited with fresh content and their subscriber base, and the producers have made adequate returns on their investments. But yeah, it's purely a COVID because theaters were not. So actually, I take affront to the topic. There's not OTT versus cinemas. I mean, it's never versus, right? I mean, these are everything will coexist. I think it was just a question of at the opportune time, given the fact that there was a certain monetization capabilities which a lot of the producers as well as the OTT deals were done. It's not taking anything away from whatever we are planning going forward. Cinema continues to be a very integral part of anything that that any production house or studio does.
Right, great, thanks. That's very helpful indeed in terms of a statement coming from production house that this trend is not here to stay. Definitely there are reasons, consumption patterns, people wanting to go to cinemas, India being a demographic in terms of the people
Absolutely.
wanting to go out. The various forms of entertainment are much lesser here as compared to global. The screen penetration is also lower. So there are these various demographics also which are well suited. And I also kind of affirm to that view that, cinema is basically here to stay for a long, long time. Let's move on to Amit. Amit, so basically, yesterday was the announcement in terms of cinemas opening. Obviously, the center has announced it, and West Bengal is the first market which announced before the center announced. And I think most of the states would probably open up in a phased manner. So in your view, firstly, how long would this take for the entire pan-India cinema operations to begin firstly, from say 15th October onwards? And secondly, what are the kind of discussions you're having, with the producers and the distributors in terms of the distributor share? Are they asking for a higher distributor share, if at all?
Hi, Karan. I see. Actually, hi, Sharik and Shailesh. Uh, Probably, this is the best time to do this conversation, because so far for last 6 7 months, whatever the kind of a webinar we were doing, we were always just putting an assumption on the air, and we were really not sure. And we which is exactly the date of reopening for the cinema. That we were first hoping for a July time to to start the cinemas, and then probably at a hindsight we were also thinking probably it's better to start from Diwali onwards, or there are certain people pushing us to April 2021. So having the cinema reopening date announced from 15th of October, I see approximately 40 to 50% states of the country allowing us to open the cinema from 15th of October. I mean, all that states wherever the restaurant has already started, at least 4 to 6 weeks prior, because that was always there on the cards, that restaurant first and then the cinema second opening will happen. For Maharashtra, definitely, they have also now resumed the restaurant operation from 5th of October. So I feel by 21st of October or by end of October, probably Maharashtra will also give us the permission. 100% cinema opening, I look at Diwali as a right date. And it is also good because with this new normal, the exhibitors also need to just need to understand how to do this operation sanitization. See, the multiplexes of this country, be it PVR, Inox, Cinepolis, Mirage, we are the one who are quite equipped to do this kind of thing, because of sheer amount of the kind of team what we have and the kind of resources what we have. But it is going to be very, very tough for the single screens of the countries and individual operators to get used to the new normal. So probably it's actually a good time for them, for at least to having that 4 weeks window or 6 weeks window before the pan India operation start, and they can probably learn from the other operators. So this going to be a quite of learning and unlearning kind of process for this 4 to 6 weeks time. Having said that, I mean, when it comes to relationship with the distributor, you will appreciate the fact that for last 11 years, post 2009, our understanding, we have been running a very successful business model. I do not see a major change in that. But at the same time, because we have been allowed with the 50% capacity, which is also very good number to start with. And, the major concern is how people will come back to cinema once again. And, to give that confidence back to our patrons, or to get a confidence to us, to ourselves also. When you look at the restaurant business, which has started wherever in north part of the country, it has been phenomenal business. So that's also gives us the confidence back. But having said that, maybe there won't be any change in commercial understanding, but yes, there's going to be a lot of handholding for each other in this relationship. You will appreciate that we have been doing this business model for last 11 years, and there was so far no hiccups in that. We don't want to change this balance, but at the same time, maybe in this particular situation we will give them a longer run commitment. Maybe rather than a week or 2 weeks, we probably give them a 4 weeks commitment. Maybe we can come out with some kind of arrangement where rather than actually decreasing the share week on week basis, which gets reduced from 50 to 42.5 and 37.5 and 30 onwards, rather than giving that kind of decreasing share percentage week on week basis, we may come out with a flat share for 3 to 4 weeks time, so that they can recoup their investment, and they can have actually a longer run on the cinema. Because certainly it is going to be a kind of situation where the first 3 months is going to be a problem, where people need to come back to the cinema. The distributors and producers also need to show the confidence back to the exhibition industry once again. So definitely there are going to be a lot of hand holding, a lot of marketing activities which we will also do for the film, in our social media, to our in cinema advertisement and everywhere. So there's going to be a lot of hand holding, but I do not see a major change in commercial between both of us.
Right, great. Thanks. So that is a good perspective, in terms of a lot of hand holding, a lot of support for each other, because this is a black swan event. and no one could have predicted this kind of an impact, on the industry as a whole. Moving on to Shailesh, Shailesh, welcome to this conversation. You track a lot of data, very closely in terms of box office, what is happening globally in India. If you can, share some kind of perspective, firstly, in terms of occupancy levels right now, what are the occupancy kind of levels globally in the developed markets like US, UK, how things are panning out over there. Obviously, Tenet has taken a U-turn in terms of collections versus what was expected. So that's been kind of a negative surprise. But globally, where do things stand globally here in terms of footfall growth, and how are you viewing this India market in comparison to global in terms of behavior? Do you think it will behave just as a US or a UK market, or the behavior will be significantly different here?
Yeah, thanks, Karan. I think the nature of
Hello. Yeah, you're fine. You're on mute. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying nature of the pandemic is that it's very geography specific in the sense that every market is peaked at different times, and there are second waves and third waves. Population demographic is also very different in India versus the rest of the world. So I think there's
regarding, sorry, let me just get this off.
No problem. Please go ahead. Yeah. Hello. But it's kind of echoing. I think we just lost the connection with Shailesh. So until he joins in, let me just move on to the other set of questions and the other points of discussion. Yeah, Shailesh, are you on? Hello. Yeah, we can hear you now. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please go on. Perfect. Yeah.
Tech glitch. Yeah. So I was saying that the nature of the pandemic is very different. So we have to look at India as a very specific market. I mean, the response globally to Tenet and Mulan, also released in some markets theatrically, has been mixed and like not necessarily surprising also, because you don't expect normal collections to return in this scenario anywhere for any film, but somewhere something has to start off, because you can't be from 0 to 100 or 80% occupancy for big films within 4 weeks or 3 weeks. It doesn't work like that. I think in Indian scenario, it's pretty clear that it will take its time. You will have to see some films coming, and some films will have to be the first ones to put themselves out there. I mean, some Hollywood films will come. No Time to Die is scheduled in November, so that's one likely film that will open up the market. And then we have got Suryavanshi, and there's some big films down south which are also scheduled to release. So some of these films will become guinea pigs of sorts to see how things go. Last year was a very good year for box office in India. I mean, there was a growth of 9% in footfall, 13% in gross collection. This is 2019 versus 18 calendar year. So from that trend, and in Hindi, after many years, there was an actual positive growth year. So we were actually looking at momentum that would have built from there. And I think it's a matter of time, whether it's 6 months or 1 year, nobody knows, as you rightly said, because it's a factor of pandemic related factors rather than anything to do with box office as such. But whenever things get back to normal, whether it takes 6 months or 1 year, I think we would be looking at almost like an extra coverage over what we have lost, because there is an audience which is starving for theatrical content. It is outdoor entertainment. It is very different from OTT. And to that extent, I agree with Sharik that this topic is kind of, it has a binary which is not necessarily as simplistic as that. And we, when we did a survey in May to understand if audiences are missing theaters, 82% of theater going audiences said they're missing theaters a lot. But then 72% also said that they will wait for 3-4 weeks and see how the situation is, and then they will decide to go. So I think there's bound to be a period of a couple of months when we will have to see what films come out and what happens. But in the long run, I think not only do I think it will go back to normal, I think they could be in 2022 calendar year, they could actually be some kind of surplus which may come our way, because we may actually be looking at people covering up for what they have lost in terms of their theatrical entertainment.
Right, thanks. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of roadblocks do continue for the cinema business, and I think it's going to only happen in a phased manner as things pan out and as the situation progresses from here on. Sharik, let me bring you in the conversation again here. I mean, as a producer, today definitely for the next 3 to 6 months, occupancies are not going to pick up, as even Shailesh pointed out. As a producer, you are not going to collect pre-COVID levels of collections, at least for the next 3 to 6 months. So what's your view on that? I mean, what are the kind of alternate modes of monetization for a film which you are looking? You recently launched the Zplex model, which was there. I mean, how big can that scale up to? That's one. And secondly, would you be looking at some alternative in terms of high distributor share, obviously as an arrangement, and also secondly in terms of shortening the window? So the OTT window currently is about 6 to 8 weeks in India. So for you to basically so that you are able to get a higher amount of outlay from the OTT platform in terms of digital rights, would you look at kind of shortening window? Just want to know that how will the gap get covered for you as a producer versus the pre-COVID era?
I think, as Amit said, I think conversations will start now. I mean, we didn't really both sides of the of the table. We were there was a ceasefire in terms of saying that let's win the war, and then we'll fight our internal battles, which prop up every few years. There's a discussion of making all those changes. So I think that will happen. I think it's important to work together to find a solution. As I said, without a doubt, everyone who sold their films directly to OTT have made a clear profit, a certain ROI. The ROI can range whatever. Obviously, we have an outlier of a film which just busts the box office. Obviously, that would have been higher. But everyone figured what is par for course at theatrical, and then have done an adjustment on that to recognize the revenue. There will be some sort of adjustments that will happen, and discussions happen. Amit's already mentioned some of the things that they're very graciously looking at offering on the table up front, and I'm sure that once we all we'll find that solution. Yeah, in terms of, we did launch Zplex. Tomorrow's actually the launch of it. We're launching. This is basically to establish another window, right? I mean, we've had theaters going straight into SVOD or satellite over the years, right? There never was a TVOD window, and I think this TVOD establishing this as a window, as an opportunity to for people who want to watch latest movies without the fear, and being at the comfort of their of their home. From us, I mean, at Zee we've always been pioneers, and in terms of taking on new businesses or new monetization models and things like that. So it is a step in that direction. I think the other thing, which specifically the launch of Zplex, was to ensure an opportunity. We are such a vast country and so underscreened that the opportunity to watch a film in your native language when you're not in your home state is far and few between, right? And this gives you an opportunity to ensure that you can be sitting in Punjab and watching a Tamil film on the day and date of release. So I think that's our endeavor with Zplex. Obviously, we just thought it was an opportune time to launch this product. And I mean, ticket sales have already started across the various DTH platforms, and in Z5 on z5.com it will start tomorrow. And we are seeing a fairly healthy interest and uptake on both Khali Pili and Kapirana Singham, and we're hoping that that this becomes a viable revenue stream for all producers, because ultimately, I mean, internationally there is a very strong home video or home rental market, which unfortunately in India, really, once the DVDs kind of died out, that kind of totally ended, and it was satellite and SVOD which kind of took over. So that's what we're trying to do, and as I said, we'll figure out how to get best terms to ensure that everyone who's releasing, especially all of us who are looking at releasing at the earliest, how we how are we supported? I won't say compensated. How are we supported? And everyone chips in to ensure that P&As are restricted, marketing is aggressive, and and using the titles to get people back into theaters, and things like that. So I think there will be a fair amount of discussion happening between us and of course the large multiplexes, but also a lot of the single screen theaters already conversations have started, and we are trying to see with Khali Pili already being released on Zplex, how do we give these theaters our content, which may be 2 weeks old or whatever, but for us the promise is we made the movie for consumers, and if consumers couldn't get to the theaters, they'll see it at home, either on OTT or on on Zplex. And once the theaters open, the same content is available for you to enjoy it in a dark cinema hall with your friends. And Khali Pili really is a very single screen massy film, and we're hoping that we are just lucky that the announcement happened just in the right time, and hopefully 2 weeks later, Gate Galaxy, we should be able to see Khali Pili. So.
Got it. Great. So, just to that point of, bringing people back into cinemas again, maybe not in those large numbers as they were pre-COVID, that will come in a phased manner. But, just about the confidence building exercise, the brand building, because SOPs and guidelines are obviously there for the safety precautions. But what about the brand recall, the promotions, the kind of incentives you give to the consumer for them to come back into cinemas? Amit, can you please kind of comment on this? Basically, what are the kind of innovative strategies apart from the SOP and the safety precaution measures which you are working on as a large cinema chain for getting the audiences back? I mean, look at AMC. I mean, they were obviously offering ticket at absurd prices of 40 cents. That was different reasons, because they were in desperate situation. I'm sure PVR Inox are not, and even you as a chain are not in that kind of situation right now. But what is the kind of offerings you'll have in terms of ATP discounts, FNB discounts? What exactly other kind of talks which are going on right now on that front?
I mean, so definitely, I mean, if you look at, there are a lot of freebies which will go in this period. Discounted ticket price to having a combo of food along with it. Maybe you'll see a lot of cashback going. So we are already in talks with a lot of bankers. So from our website to the partners, even if you look at 50% of the ticket which has been sold right now, it has been sold from Book My Show and Paytm in the country. So there are a lot of cashback which will go to the end users. So that freebies will definitely come. But what I believe is apart from freebies, the most important point is actually fresh content. So if we have fresh content coming every week on week basis, that's the biggest puller. That's the first point to understand. And what I look at is that freebies can attract a certain section of crowd. The fresh content is one which actually attracts the larger section of the crowd. But the most important point still remains is giving this confidence to the patrons that your cinema halls are very much safe for you and your family to come and enjoy the film. That's a very, very important aspect. Please understand the number of content what we lost to OTT right now, if I'll talk from a Hindi perspective, is approximately 18 to 20 number of content. In our 52 weeks, we generally release approximately 100 plus only Hindi feature films. I'm not talking regional as of now. So even if you look at out of the 80 films which was slated to release in a financial year, probably few have been pushed to the next year because of the production, which has not been able to complete the production. But still, we will have it is just a matter of now 4 to 6 weeks of time, and probably I see. Every 15 days you'll have right content coming in, a big content coming in, a medium size to a big size kind of content coming in, and that will ease the entire situation. Because once you have a fresh content and you give back the confidence to patrons that this is a very safe place for you to come and enjoy your the film with your friends and family, that's the most important aspect. Definitely the freebies, the marketing, the brand recall, this will all go on. And so this will all go on. The cashbacks, this will be more than what we were doing in the pre-pandemic period. But definitely this is going to be the most important aspect, giving the confidence back to the people that we are safe for you and your family.
Right. So again, safety is going to be very important, and people are going to come into phases into cinemas. Shailesh, let me get back to you in the conversation here. I mean, you'll definitely see some kind of consumption habits also changing. So I'm not of that view that, people will not flock into cinemas, OTT will emerge winner because of the outing, the demographic thing which I pointed out earlier. But you definitely see some minimal or some audience base, you're seeing a consumption shift, a kind of a habit shift. You feel that is going to be there? I mean, post-COVID era, you see footfalls, if not getting 40% impacted, that's a big number. But could you see the footfalls getting impacted by 8-10% negatively just because of some consumers, changing the habit of, not wanting to go to cinemas and wanting to consume movies on OTT? If you can share some perspective on that.
Yeah, so see, in every main language, which is Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, if we take those three, there are around, as Amit also mentioned, around 125 films which release in a year. 75% box office is coming from top 20 of those. In Hollywood, it's even more drastic. Top 10 contribute 70-75% in India. So you're actually looking at those films driving the overall theatrical trend, because the long tail is there and it is there for variety, and of course it's there for diversity, and small films have to also do well. But even before COVID, we were seeing a trend in the last 2-3 years that certain smaller films were not opening well in theaters. They were probably being seen as films which are likely to go to OTT directly in the future anyway. Like if you see some of the Nawazuddin Siddiqui kind of films in the last 2-3 years, they have not opened well at all compared to maybe 4 years ago when his films were probably touching 2 crore opening to almost 50-60 lakhs. So I think there are certain big screen elements that were coming into play. We have seen Bahubali, Avengers, and KGF Chapter 2 is going to be very big in India across languages. So we are seeing these kind of big ticket films which are made for the big screens, and this is pretty much that top 20 films, 75 to 80% of the revenue coming from there. Now, amongst the films which have gone to OTT so far, I'm not very sure if anything more than one or two, maybe Gunjan Saxena, like if at all, is actually in the top 20 category. So you're actually looking at a wider second line, which anyway, I think over time would have found a, like in India, PVOD or TVOD is not very well established yet, and Replex is making a good start there. But once that comes into play, you may see a lot of films going that route. But the top 20s, which is Suryavanshi, which is say an 83, which is all the Salman films and the big ticket Diwali releases, and the Hollywood superhero films, the big South films, those films are the big screen films, and I think that is what the core theatrical habit is, whether it is a Houseful 4 for the family or it's a Bahubali 2 because the scale is so big, or there are a lot of 3D films which are coming, especially from Hollywood. I think that is where the audience does not see streaming as a replacement, because the experience of theatrical, whether it's social, communal, or big screen, all those factors come into play, is very, very different. So footfalls will get impacted for the smaller films, but that was anyway beginning to happen in 2017-18, and we were seeing polarization that the bigger films were doing better, and the smaller films were actually struggling in the last 2-3 years itself. So you would see that divide, and the small film had to be really, really strong on content and get great word of mouth, and maybe then it will find an audience in the second, third week, and that's happened with some films as well. But by and large, you will see that smaller films would have made their way to streaming directly, even if there was no COVID. Probably that was a trend one was sensing. Like we saw Love Per Square Foot take that call a couple of years ago, and then there were some other films that were far and few in between, as Sharik said. But I think they have been there, and that trend would have picked up. So no, I think it will become more big screen led, which is how it's happening worldwide. Hollywood has all become superhero and big screen led over the last 2 decades. And I think we are going to look at that in India across languages as well. And that means that the streaming category will survive on more intimate, uh, low production scale, I mean, more tighter production scale kind of films, which are more relying on storytelling and not so much on a big screen experience. And I think that seems perfectly fine, and that's how the category would have probably gone in general without COVID. But I think this may have accelerated that by a year or two. But its impact on footfalls is almost negligible, because for every small film that I don't go to the theater for, probably I'm also getting exposed to an Avengers or a No Time to Die, and Hollywood has been growing at 30-35% in India. So you are seeing that the big screen factor is actually increasing the Hollywood impact in India. So for specific languages, especially Hindi, there may be some reason to worry. But we are seeing Tamil, Telugu, Hollywood penetrating in Hindi and other languages. So I think it will become a little more, in that sense, cross-language category, in which is where the overall numbers won't probably drop.
I think that view is correct actually, because if you look at Hindi films today, when they go directly on OTT, there is certain kind of capping in terms of the ROI they achieved. So films like Uri, Kabir Singh couldn't have done that 300% ROI if they were directly released on OTT. So definitely the flow of medium small films will also continue on cinema, and producers will want to test the market on cinema and then move to OTT rather than just falling for high premium on OTT. Coming to content strategy again, coming back to you, Sharik, on that, you as a studio, what kind of changes have you seen in terms of your film slate, in terms of your content strategy? Obviously, this thing was never tested of large scale films going directly on digital, or medium films probably going directly on digital. But thanks to COVID, this thing is now tested, and now we've got to know that what is the kind of premiums OTTs will basically pay the producer for going directly on digital. So have you kind of are you trying to go more aggressive in terms of your slate of films, or trying to make more films for direct digital because the OTTs are willing to pay that kind of money for movie content, which they were not earlier? Or is it just the same in terms of the content slate and the productions which you have right now under process?
No, we are actually going very aggressive. As I said, with 6 months of no production, there's going to be a huge shortfall next year of films releasing to fill up both the theaters as well as the demand for content. Also, all of us who've been everyone's the amount of content, also the habit of consuming content on OTT or on satellite has gone through the roof over the last 6 months, and I think it's a habit which is formed. So people will continue watching a lot more. So yeah, the OTT platforms are aggressive. We are, in fact, we just finished a shoot of a direct to OTT film as of yesterday for Z5. There are another 3 more which are already commissioned, and the agreements are being signed, and we are looking to. So the smaller ones are easier to take on floor right now. So wherever the script is something that we like and the actors are ready to go on floor within the next 45 to 60 days, we are looking at green lighting that, because that will quickly turn around at least some stuff for for direct to OTT, because now obviously with cinemas, theaters opening, all the pent up, there won't be anything which is made for theatrical or which was under production will now follow the theater route. So yeah, so we are doubling down on productions, and as a studio I need to do all, big, small, medium, everything across genres, across languages. So we're looking at Punjabi. We're just on the verge of signing a couple of Telugu mid-sized films. So yeah, so you will see a lot more noise from us in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of announcements and productions. I also think given the run and the strong subscriber acquisition that has happened by OTT, the overall values of digital will remain high for the next 12 to 18 months. So I think that kind of gives producers like us an opportunity to make those bets, because you're assured of those ancillary rights being secured upfront itself. So yeah, so I think it's good. It's a good time to be a content producer.
Great, very encouraging to know that. I think that's going to be a big positive for exhibitors, because I think content has been a mainstream issue, given this COVID times right now. So basically, Hindi is something which we are more or less sorted. We're not seeing more than 20 odd films going directly to OTT. You may have 3-4 more announcements, if at all things go worse in terms of occupancy and stuff like that. But I think regional content, specifically South, was more of a negative surprise. So Amit, I would like to bring you here in the conversation here. So what happened exactly is that the shootings in South started much later than what the Hindi films started. And even in terms of the number of films being ready, were much lesser as compared to what Hindi films were ready. So do you see some kind of shortfall specifically for regional content, and exhibitors having a higher share from Tamil, Telugu language films, as a content supply? Do you see that as a problem in the near term?
I actually see it the other way around, because if you look at the number of films which were ready, Hindi has gone more number of films to OTT, whereas Southern film industry has actually they have not gone and sold more number of their films in the OTT. So actually they have actually gone and preserved their films. for cinema viewing. So, you know, there we have actually more number of films coming, and specifically when it comes to Telugu film industry, there are approximately 8 to 10 large films which is ready. From when you look at Tamil mein Master, Telugu mein you have Vakil Saab, to Fighter, to Chiranjeevi's Next, and those kind of films. And you know, we need to understand this is the timing. So when it comes to Diwali, is actually a time when you have, like, you know, big Tamil and Hindi films releasing. Christmas is again a time when you have, like, you know, big Hindi films releasing. But when it comes to Telugu, you have, like, you know, Pongal, which is actually the time when the season starts. So Telugu is a kind of industry where you have the summer very heavy, and then you have, like, you know, January Pongal very heavy. You know, this 2.5 months time from 15th of October till December, I do not see bigger Telugu films releasing. But from Pongal onwards, you will probably find Telugu film industry will, like, you know, probably will reach to at least 80 to 90% pre-COVID level. That's what our assumption for Telugu film industry. Tamil also, I feel like probably from December onwards, they will also reach to 70-80% of their pre-COVID level. Hindi, definitely it's going to be depending on the kind of content what we, like, you know, have lineup. But I feel like, you know, probably Hindi also, like, you know, reaching to 60 to 70% of the pre-COVID level kind of business post January onwards. But Telugu film industry is certainly going to bounce back much faster because they have approximately 12 to 15 films ready, and they have not gone to OTT. So this is the kind of industry which will, like, you know, bounce back much earlier than probably Hindi film industry. That's what our assumption is for Telugu. And also we should not we should look at, like, you know, probably Bengali film industry, because that's going to be having the first fresh content coming in India. Because Durga Puja or Navratri is a time when you have, like, you know, big ticket Bengali films releasing, and also, like, you know, Dracula sir kind of film which is expected to release in Puja in Bengal. And so, you know, Bengali film also will, like, you know, start, like, you know, rolling up from October onwards. English also, when you look at, you have James Bond waiting for the release, you have Wonder Woman waiting for the release. So there are two big ticket items from English also, like, you know, waiting from November to December period. So it's definitely going to be a time tasting time for all of us. But the biggest film of this year is also, we should look at, like, you know, the most awaited films of this year is just not Suryavanshi 83, but at the same time KGF Chapter 2, which is going to be a multilingual film, and that will test the market all across the country. So I understand, like, you know, this is actually a difficult time for films to release, but probably we will limp back to normalcy much faster than what is expected.
Got it. That's a very interesting perspective. So I think we're just running out of time, on this panel. We'll just take some questions. Before that, I'll just like to summarize, so this entire thing of, movies going directly on OTT is a mere COVID trend, and we don't see producers doing that after COVID era and after once cinemas come back to normal occupancy. India demographics are very well suited, for the multiplexes. There are still some roadblocks here and there, but I think in a phased manner, eventually everything will work in the way of cinemas, and there'll be a different audience always, for cinema and for OTT in terms of content consumption. So I'll just open the floor for Q&A now, and we can just take some questions quickly. So I think the first question I would like to take is from Bhaskar Chaudhary. He's asking about how does lifetime value of an OTT content compare to a big screen content in terms of actual numbers, in terms of margins? Anyone who would like to take this question? So from the panelists? Yeah.
I mean, good question. The lifetime value, I mean, when you sell it to OTT, you license it for whatever, 9 years, 7 years, 15 years, whatever the deal may be. Obviously, so, whatever money you're making upfront is what is there for whatever, for that, for the period of license. Theatrical, if the film does well, so typically in most producers, the way it currently was operating, in terms of, when you were putting your projects together. So if you're making a film at 100, you were looking at all ancillary rights, the way the market had reached on an average, almost about 80 to 90% of all your COP was taken care of by the ancillary rights. So, a lot of your COP was covered in any case by digital and satellite and music and, what have you. Obviously, theatrical was the, and if you hit, jackpot like an Uri or a, Tanaji or a Kabir Singh, then obviously the theatrical is a lot higher. But as a producer, I mean, I normally look at, if I need to make 100 rupees revenue, I need to, my ancillary rights should be, for I'm greenlighting a project, ancillary revenue should be 50, and I should make at least 50 from, revenue share should be from, from the box office. So, that's the broad math, but difficult to give exact numbers on, what the question was.
Got it. Thanks. So I think this is just one question which we had from the participants. So thank you all participants. Thank you Adgully for giving this opportunity for moderating this panel. So over to you, Varun.
Thank you, speakers, for giving us a bird's eye view on the state of cinema exhibition industry and the challenges and opportunity that it presents. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Varun.
Thank you.
Bye, Shailesh. Bye.
Thank you all. Thanks, Sharik. Thanks, Amit. Thank you, Shailesh.
Thank you, everyone. See you.